All right, Mr. Park. Financial report as of February 20th, 2015.
Yes. Attached, please find a budget report by object for general fund operations with expenditures to date. At February 20th, 2015, the district's cash and investment balances on hand for the four primary accounts were $6,948,002. At that same date, the district expended $17,422,761 of a $30,542,335 budget, or 57.04% of budget.
Does anybody have any questions? All right, authorization to request proposals for substitute management services, and we need a vote.
Okay. Marlboro County School District provides substitute coverage for classroom teachers, food service custodians, and other administrative support services. Presently, the district manages the substitute pool internally and carries the burden of many of the compliance matters with temporary employees, which include the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act contains severe penalties for failure to comply with a labyrinth of regulations. One of those penalties for failure to provide an eligible employee with employer-provided insurance benefits is $2,000 per full-time employee. If you have one person that you miss, the potential liability for the district is $1.3 million. Many districts within the state have made the decision to outsource their substitute management services. The service utilizes the same pool of substitutes and become employees of the service versus employees of the district. There are many benefits to the substitutes. Presently, the district limits hours that a substitute can work to less than 130 hours per month. Temporary employees who work in excess of those hours are eligible for health insurance benefits, and of course the district is obliged to provide those benefits. Presently, those costs can range anywhere from $4,318 to $10,438 annually per employee, depending on coverage elected. The substitute workers services generally do not limit hours worked and encourage working full-time along with incentives. The substitute services pay substitutes on the same scale. The district utilizes and in some cases provide additional compensation as benefits or incentives within the proposed rate. The district currently pays all substitutes monthly. Many of the substitute management services pay weekly, which is an advantage to the employee. The district incurs additional benefit costs as well as costs associated with maintaining existing substitute management system, which includes an annual licensing fee as well as staffing considerations. My recommendation is to allow myself to request proposals which are attached for substitute management services and return the results to the board to authorize the provider after the analysis of the requests have been performed. And if you look at the RFP, it gives you an idea of what the purpose, the background, the guidelines for the response. Also, there's discussion about the providing information regarding the overview of the firm, the current implementations that they presently have, contact information, recruiting, hiring, training, and there's a questionnaire that's associated with that, and then of course the type of employee information that we're asking for, the maintenance of an electronic management system, reporting and performance, and then of course we use an evaluation process in order to determine what would be the recommendation.
Ms. O'Nation?
will our employees be in the temp service if they wish to be, you know, in terms of our folks that we have? What opportunity are our people in our county to have to be a part of the temp service, whichever temp service we choose? How is that going to be handled?
It's obvious that the existing temps that we're presently using, the existing substitutes, have got every advantage in terms of employment. They're close to the district. I mean, I don't. Any temporary service is not going to be bringing people from a long ways away. Temporary positions just don't pay greatly. I think the other advantage that these temp services have as well is they can offer other assignments when school is out or when there are breaks. I think there are a lot of advantages, and I've talked with some colleagues in other districts, and they said that this is one of the best things that they've ever done within there.
And basically our decision to look at moving in this direction is because we have the ASOP system, and what principals have said to us is that the ASOP system is not working for them. The other problem is that the paperwork that's required to meet the letter of the law, we don't have the manpower to keep up with all of that. And we have to keep very accurate data on that, because if we do not, then the district we could get penalized, or we could end up in violation, and then we'd have to end up paying money back to the government, and we don't want to do that.
Ms. Bright?
I was trying to read this as you was going on, but let me ask you, what happens to the teachers that we have that does substitute now?
Well, of course, they end up, whatever service that you decide that we are able to engage would reach out to those substitute teachers that we presently have. We've had some discussions with existing vendors.
That could be a stipulation of our agreement. First of all, when it comes to subs, we don't have people coming from other districts or other areas to sub for us. Our base for our subs and the subs that go in and know our children in our system, we train them here ourselves. So they have to go through substitute training, and it's required by law, and it's handled through the adult ed. And so we would need to continue to have that pool of subs. Basically, this company would be more to call them and to keep accurate records.
Correct. And they would maintain the electronic and voice type of data in terms of engaging those subs. And of course, they would call the service. They maintain all of the hardware, so to speak, of the operation.
Well, I would like for it to be kind of stipulated that they use our subs or give our subs the opportunity to be employed with them, because I do know we do have some subs, and I know it's unrealistic to think someone is going to come from Florence and work here. So I know you have to kind of work that, but I don't want to see our substitute teachers unemployed.
No.
That was the point of my question, too. I wanted to see what we're doing with that, and the stipulations can be made. I thought I read in here that we would give up the training. I could have misread that.
Correct.
And that the training would fall under the temp service. Is that right?
The training would fall under the temp service, but of course, we are able to dictate the type of training and the types of expectations we have in terms of providing that specific training and
What term are you, excuse me, what term are you looking for during the procurement?
We are looking at trying to find a solution here. We propose 5 years.
Yeah, see, that's a problem for me, a 5-year without really knowing how it's going to work. And of course, they want to have that.
I think one of the things that we're talking about too is anyone that we're talking about in regards to recommendation, they would come and make a presentation to the board, and of course you would be able to grill them with whatever questions that you might have.
So you're telling me that all we're voting on is for you to put proposals out?
That's right. Absolutely.
Okay, raise your hand.
This is not. You're going to authorize whatever the service is, but I want to make certain.
No, this motion is not saying that.
And I think,
And you request proposals, you're supposed to deal with them. It's not quite that simple, Mr. Parker.
Well, you're going to make the.
I know we would make the final decision, but
Absolutely. And if you would like to.
State a motion so that it makes it real clear. He's got to hurry back.
the comment I wanted to make is I think that it would be very helpful to the board if you could bring back the information regarding the law and
Certainly.
all the things that have to be
The compliance issues
right. And
associated
so I
with
think the
affordable
board
care.
needs to.
we should table
We talked
this.
about that before, but I think you need to be refreshed on that because it's a lot that's required.
One of the.
Paul, did you have anything else to say?
I did.
Yes.
I guess my concern would be, one, when we talk about paraprofessionals, that we be specific in what we're talking about as far as the type jobs that we're going to do. Substitutes, really, for me.
Typically, you're talking receptionist in terms of paraprofessional.
Yeah.
Someone who is, if a receptionist is out, then of course there's someone that's got to be able to answer that phone and be able to greet people coming into the various facilities.
But if I could add, Mr. Goff, unless there's a long-term illness or something, most of the time principals are going to cover those paraprofessionals within their.
Understood.
Yeah, we wouldn't bring in. Normally, we don't bring in.
I just want to make sure that we don't end up employing long-term positions through temp, and that, if it comes to a point where, most of the time what we do, where I'm at, if we need somebody because things pick up in March, then we can employ them through the rest of the year. But ideally, if you know that position is going to be there for the next budget, you try to build that position into the budget. So that's okay.
I'd like to have a little bit more information before I voted, but I may be the only one on the
Let's
board.
postpone this till the next meeting. Would someone make a motion to that effect?
Well,
This is what we kind of
let me state this. I mean, part
How
of what
quickly do we need to decide
what
this?
we're trying to accomplish
Let's get this in the
is to go ahead and include this within the budget, and then of course I would hope that if this is the solution, that the recommendation from staff and the board agrees, that we could implement this July 1. And my concern is if we get much further out in order to transition, it might be difficult to accomplish that in time.
You mean to deal with them by July 1st to determine what we needed? Can you give
Well,
us an
no, to
idea
be
of what's
able
going
to
to come?
transition to that particular service by that time.
Ms. Fleming?
I'm looking at that first paragraph, and just the last paragraph in the first sentence is, one of the penalties of failure to provide an eligible employee provided insurance coverage is $2,000 per full-time employee. Now, I've heard this on the radio over and over, public services announcements. It does not necessarily, it affects everyone. And I mean, it's just one of those things that we don't want to rush into it, but we got to do it. Otherwise, if they catch us, we're going to have to pay this money because the law says that it must be done. So it's not just Marlboro County Schools, it's all employees that's, that
Under your evaluation criteria, where it says here that you can, we reserve the right to reject any and all responses and to waive any irregularities of information in the process. So authorizing the RFP is not binding us to do it, to go any further from.
Absolutely
Then we'll have some
not.
hard figures and dollar amounts through the
Someone
RFP.
make a motion?
Correct.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I move that we authorize the Chief Financial Officer to request proposals for the prescribed substitute management service and return the results to the board to authorize the provider after analysis of the request have been performed.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Is there any discussion?
One thing I would like to say, I know we'll be penalized if we got certain employees that work a certain amount of hours. Can you bring back to us how many employees would fit into that criteria?
Well, potentially all of our temporary, our substitutes can fall into that. We are restricting, of course, HR is restricting those hours to 130 per month, or less than 130 per
All of our
month.
substitutes that are working 130 hours a month?
If they're working, if they have to, we limit their hours to 130. But if for some reason they somehow find a way to work more than that and it doesn't come to our attention, then that's where the risk.
But that hasn't happened very often, has it? I mean,
this law, we're talking about this is,
It's a serious act here, ACA.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. All right, all opposed? All right, the motion's carried. Now, let me make sure we're clear about this. This is just to bring back...
Just to bring back to actually solicit proposals. It's not approving anything other than that.
Lord knows we spent a lot of time on it. Wallace School construction update, Mr. Park.
Just to give you an update, there's no change in the budget overall, but we have found that we have been able to reduce cost in fencing, water line, and property acquisition by $100,000, and we know we're going to. We have been able to reduce the cost for fencing, water line, and property acquisition by $100,000. However, we know we're going to need it in technology. From speaking with Mr. Toole in regards to the reduction in E-rate funding. So what we've done here is the budget overall remains unchanged. We've just reallocated the funds from those categories to technology. So hopefully this is just kind of an update.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Park. Dr. McLeod, we have trips for Wallace Elementary Middle School trip to Camp PD, Marlboro County High School FFA Leadership Camp to Cherry Grove, South Carolina, Marlboro County High School FFA Convention, trip to Clemson, South Carolina. Are all of the funds arranged and everything in order?
Yes, ma'am.
Someone please make a motion.
I make a motion to approve these field trips as listed by the chairman.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Carried unanimously. Thank you. And then an update on school projects, Dr. McLeod.
Okay, first I'll start with the Wallace project. Mr. Toole, if pay attention to the screen behind you. Next slide. This is what it looked like a month ago, and the project has moved a little slower this month because of the weather. There was a lot that they wanted to do that they didn't get done because of the weather. Next, Mr. Toole. Okay, this is also from last month. Next. Okay, that's what it looked like this morning. Next. Okay, this is what the gym looked like at the last meeting last month. Next. Okay, this is what it was looking like this morning. And it was foggy out there, but if you look in the background, there are actually a couple of extra walls that are actually up. And to the left, a little more, Mr. Toole, a little bit more right in there. In other words, those are extra walls that are up back there in the middle portion of the building. Next. Okay, this is a look at that same area, but it's a little more to the right with the school in the background, and that area he's pointing to, that's a new wall that's up. Next. Okay, this is on the far side of the building over near the woods where the primary building would be, and this is the foundation as of this morning as it's coming out of the ground over on that side of the project. Next. Okay, and this is on that same side. Next. And that's an update on Wallace.
Thank you very much. Mr. Driggers.
Quick question. When we were at the school board meeting at this past annual conference, I talked with the gentleman on the lighting for the sports fields. He made a comment to me that if you had bleachers over 4 steps high, that you had to have emergency lighting if the fields went on. And one of the things he commented to me about was that you had to have a generator. My question to you, and you may or may not know the answer, but does the generator that we have in place in Wallace, will it be capable of doing the emergency lighting at those sports fields if the power goes off during the game tonight? That's just something I'd like to know, so if you could just find out for me, I sure would appreciate it, because there's no reason to buy 2 generators, and we can just change that one a little bit so we can handle what's out there on that field.
Yeah, I'll check on that Wednesday morning.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Coachman.
Yeah. Dr. McLeod, due to the weather situation we've been having, how far behind the schedule do you think that project got? Do you have a timeline?
I don't have the slightest idea. I can, if you like, next meeting, I can ask contractors to come in and give you an update.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Concession stand.
Concession stand. We got the trailer out, and they did some digging, but because of the weather, I don't think they've done too much more.
Did we get the approval from OSF on whatever remodification they had to make?
Had not heard anything about that, and I think they were still in negotiations with the OSF.
Will you find out? Maybe shoot us an email by the end of the week.
Yes.
Good deal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Before Dr. Cobb goes, I am going to go back up here and mention the 4-day work week for administration in the summer. Numerous times, board members have commented that I eat breakfast at Magnolia on Main, and one of the things that's rather handy about that is I go there at 6:30 in the morning, and at 7:30, I drive by the district office in the morning, and frequently the parking lot is really, really empty. And I would like to propose that we do away with the 4-day work week, because the hours that are supposedly being worked don't seem to have people with cars that go there. So if anyone would like to make a motion to that effect, fine. If
Ms.
not,
Parsons,
we'll skip it.
I think that's awful that you would even say that. You know,
Well,
we don't work at that building all day, every day.
Then fine,
I have
skip
staff members that have meetings in other places in the district. We have meetings outside of the district. In service, people
That's
are
fine.
doing their work.
Well, I just mentioned it, that I'm somebody that drives by there. So if anybody is concerned about it, fine. If not, we'll go right on with the calendar. Dr. Cobb.
Madam Chair and board members, Dr. Tiller, I'd like to mention
Can I say something first? Ms. Parsons, as superintendent, it is my responsibility to supervise staff, to make sure that they're doing their jobs and they're where they're supposed to be, and I do that. Again, that's the superintendent's role, and I'm doing that. So I'll assure you that people are where they need to be.
Well, that's lovely. Thank you. I feel so much better.
Good.
Before I mention the extended and traditional calendar for 2015-2016, I'd like to mention to board members that we've decided on makeup days for this year because of the inclement weather. We've missed 3 days so far. 2 days that we had built into the schedule for 2014-2015. 2 of those days, March 13th, will be our first makeup day. That was scheduled as a parent-teacher conference day, so that will be our first makeup day. The second makeup day will be April 3rd, and we have not decided on the third makeup day. That's for the traditional schedule. For the McCall, which is the extended schedule for 2014-2015, in their calendar, inclement weather makeup days, March 23rd will be their first makeup day. April 13th, and by the way, March 23rd in the extended calendar was to be the first day of their intercession, but they will be in school on the first day of their intercession, which is the 23rd of March. The second makeup day for McCall will be April 13th, and their third makeup day will be June 5th.
What day is graduation this year?
Graduation is the 6th of June.
That'll be that Friday. Okay.
Right. And you have in your board packet the traditional schedule for 2015-2016 that was developed by the teacher cabinet with input from the teacher cabinet and input from their staff and administration from each individual school. You also have the extended calendar that was developed by the administration and staff from McCall Elementary Middle School. The administration recommends the traditional and the extended calendar for first reading for 2015-2016.
Would someone please make a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we accept the 2015-2016 traditional and extended school district calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Coachman. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, without discussion. Would you like to discuss this, Mr. Woods?
No.
Oh, you're ready to vote. All right. All in favor, please raise your right hand. And the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Dr. Kopp. And Dr. Tiller, your superintendent's report.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes.
Before we move to superintendent, I want to revisit the motion Robert made a little earlier, and I've been
Which one?
About the committee.
Okay.
And I've been thinking about what he said, and you know, he started off talking about why we needed a committee and that he wanted a diverse committee. And I've just been thinking about this thing the whole time, and with that being said, I don't know how we go about doing this. I know we can make changes to it, or maybe we need to do an amendment, but I'd like to remove myself from that because I think it needs to be diverse, like he said. And I'd like to make myself an alternate and make Michael the committee member. That way it would be a diverse committee like he asked.
All right. Somebody are you going to do a motion?
I guess I can.
Well, Mr. Branch, in view of that, you're the vice chairman. I would be happy to step aside and let Michael.
Make no mistake about it. It don't have to be Michael, as long as it's diverse and everybody has to come. Ms. Nan is also off from work.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be me. I will accept it.
When y'all were talking about the diversity, nobody worried about diversity when it was Ms. Peterkin and Ms. Fleming and me. You know, it's when diversity...
But when it was Ms. Peterkin and Ms. Fleming, it was because you, Ms. Peterkin and Ms. Fleming were the 3 officers of the board.
But I'd feel better just to go ahead.
Well, and the intent and the reason I brought it up is so that we can eliminate some of the problems that we're having. With Mr. Branch, offering to step down. Mr. Coachman's already offered his services as far as stepping in. If Ms. Onasian feels like for some reason, schedule-wise, she's not going to be able to attend, that will be between them. But I mean, it doesn't have to be Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be an argument over, over who's going to attend. I mean, it's, if...
Well, it's temporary.
If you had a diversity, everybody works good together, and it brings it back to the board with an agenda that everybody approves of, and I think it will be good for the entire board and for the community and for this county.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to the amendment to the motion to remove myself and add Michael as a committee member and me or someone else as alternate.
I second that motion.
All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed?
I'm not
All right.
opposed to Michael.
Raise your hands again for the...
That makes sense. You agree to the motion, but you don't vote on it. You vote on it, you don't agree to it.
No, I mean, yeah, I agree. The whole thing is
It may be silly, but it's the consensus
twisted.
of the vote.
All right, raise your hands again for those in favor. All right, Ms. Tweed, it's Mr. Coachman, Mr. Branch, Ms. Bright, Mr. Goff, Ms. Fleming, Mr. Woods, and all opposed, Mr. Driggers.
I'm abstaining.
And I'm going to abstain too, Ms. O'Nation. I've frankly heard enough of it today.
I'm the only one opposed.
Mr. Driggers is opposed. No, I think Ms. O'Nation did. Okay. All right. And Dr. Taylor, would you please proceed with your superintendent's report?
Thank you. Ms. Parsons, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'd like to start by thanking Ms. Kane and also Mr. Jorgensen for hosting us this evening in Clio, and also thank members of their staff for all the hard work that they're doing with our children and the performances.
And for staying here till the wee hours of the morning.
Yes, and their performances this evening were outstanding, and we're very proud of our children. The last couple of weeks we've had awards programs, and I just want to highlight a few of those. At our high school, we recognized over 400 students for the first semester that made A or AB honor roll. Over 400 at the high school. And out of that 400, 149 were freshmen. So go Marlboro County High School. I was very proud of them. And also, I thought that morning going over to the program, as I approached the high school, I thought that maybe it was a football game and I just didn't know about it. We had so many parents and visitors there that morning. I'm so proud of our students. We do have excellence in Marlboro County. Also at the high school, on Friday, the high school had their Black History celebration, and it was outstanding. The guest speaker was the legendary Willie Jeffries, head football coach at South Carolina State University for many years, and also a head coach at Wichita State University. And he came and he challenged our kids to be builders instead of people that tear down things. He said that everybody needs to work to be builders. He also talked to the kids about the importance of respecting and embracing diversity. The accomplishments of African Americans in our history that doesn't appear in the history books, he talked about that as well. And he also talked to our children about the importance of getting a good education. And I want you to know that on Friday, what made the program so special, that every race and cultural group that makes up our high school population were involved in the program. Our teachers from the Philippines, they dressed in their native dress, and they demonstrated different native dances for our children. Our teachers from India also came up and spoke and shared information about the culture in India. One of our students from India came dressed in her sari, and she did Indian dance for the students. We had African American students that performed some African dances. We also had some of our Latino population sharing information, as well as Native Americans. One of our teachers there, who's a Native American, brought a lot of artifacts from her family and shared with our students. So it was wonderful. And our kids enjoyed it. It started at 1:30 and it ended at 3:30. So it was definitely a celebration, and I would be amiss if I didn't mention the fact that our jazz band did an outstanding job, the high school jazz band, at that celebration as well. In addition to that, at the primary school, at their last PTO meeting, they had a combination of PTO, science fair, and Black History Month celebration, and our children did an outstanding job. And I see Miss Reddy shaking her head. What was so great about it, the parts that they played, they dressed that way. We had a professor there. We had Martin Luther King there, and you name it, and it goes on and on. But it was wonderful, and it was well attended. And in addition to that, here at Clio on Friday, we had their celebration for Black History Month, and our jazz band from the School of Discovery performed and talked to the kids about the fact that jazz is an African American art form, and he explained information about that. Our kids also shared information. It was great because they involved the audience, where they would read a verse and then we'd have to guess who they were. And Mr. Harley, I know he was here with us on that day, and it was wonderful. And we had a packed house in here. The parents really came out. And in addition to that, we had great vocal selections from our children. And then at the end of the program, they did a blast from the past. And I'm going to tell you who they had here. They had James Brown. They had Gladys Knight and the Pips. They had the Temptations, and I know the Temptations were here tonight to perform for you, but the music failed. They also had B.B. King. See if Ike and Tina Turner. And the Supremes. So it was wonderful, and the kids dressed up in the part, and they played the part, and I think the parents in the audience, I think we really went down memory lane. So it was great.
What was BB's last name?
King.
King.
B.B. King. And he came out with his guitar too. The next thing I want to share is that 30 of our students, our pre-K students that participate in the after-school program at the primary school, they're going to be visiting the Science Museum in Columbia tomorrow, and the Science Museum is Adventure. And as you know, Adventure houses the largest boy in the world. And so our kids will spend times, they're going to tour his brain. They're going to be able to tour the heart, the stomach, and they will get to slide down through his intestines. Adventure is a science museum, and I know our kids are going to have a ball, and if you haven't been there, you need to go and see Eddie. Eddie is huge, and it's a good learning activity for our kids. On March 14th, our after-school program across the district, we have 95th through 8th graders that will be traveling to Charleston, and they're going to visit Boone Hall Plantation in Mount Pleasant. as well as they're going to take a harbor cruise over to Fort Sumter. And this is an excellent opportunity for our students. And also this ties in with the South Carolina history that's taught in grades 3 through 8. And so we're looking forward to this, and I just want the board to know that I was a little concerned when they talked about the harbor cruise. I went on that harbor cruise over to Fort Sumter when I was in 10th grade, and they've been doing it, and they run it every day. So our kids need to have the same experience. But I've asked the parents that if they would rather not have them go on the cruise, and let us know, because they can opt out. Teacher recruitment is going very well. We've already signed some teachers for next year, and I tell you, but the competition is fierce. I know on last week, Dr. Cobb and those went to one recruitment, and there were 7 teachers at the whole college for everybody to choose from, and all these different schools were there trying to get 7 folks. Right. So, but we are going to be having our own district recruitment fair, and that's going to be on March 28th. And so we're looking forward to that as well. Also, our counselors are working on registration for next year, registering and counseling our kids about the courses they need for the upcoming year. So that's going very well. Also, I wanted to share to the board, just to remind you, and where's my reminder? Here it is. That County Council would like to extend an invitation to the Board of Education to meet at the Magnolia Restaurant on Monday, March 9th, for a meeting and dinner from 5:30 to 7:30. And I'm just reminding the board of that.
What do they have?
And, oh, I don't know.
Fried chicken.
I don't know.
No, it's free. We'll be there.
Yes. And the last thing I want to share is, first of all, I want to thank the board for the hard work that you always do. We've made a lot of strides, and we've done a lot of good things for our kids. And I want us to be able to continue to do that. I think the more inclusive we are, the better. And Ms. Parsons, stop writing for a minute. What? And I want everybody to know that I'm going to keep working with Ms. Parsons, and she's going to keep working with me. We really love each other. We just have a different opinion.
All right.
Is that right? You got it.
All right now. All right.
That is my report.
All right.
We've got staffing to do tonight. Now, before we go,
Where's the recruitment fair at?
We're going to have it, it's at the high school.
High school? Okay, thank you.
I think one of the things that made for all of this confusion tonight is the fact that questions were asked in the form of things on the agenda. That is our job. There's no agenda with it other than to understand what's actually happening. It's not something personal at all. And I don't know why y'all freak out about it. I really don't. And let me tell you another thing before we go on. If you have something to put on the agenda, for goodness sakes, call. And please understand, I've got so much stuff on my plate right now. Toothbrushes in 4 states. And so I don't have time to try and call everybody to do this. Get your stuff into the agenda and quit having your feelings on your shoulders. This is about doing business, the business of the district. Now,
excuse me, Ms. Parson, I don't think it's about people with feelings on their shoulder. I think it's all about making sure that all of us are together as one, and all of us agree that we want to work together. And your comment about feelings on the shoulder, it's not about my feelings on my shoulder. It's all about being as a one board. And being respected. And being respected. Hold up, I allow you to speak, allow me to speak. It's all about showing respect to each board member to allow them to be able to voice what they need to put on the agenda or ask them out of consideration or letting us know what we're able to do. That's all I'm saying.
Would you all please send me your emails, if you want me to do that, or your cell phone numbers or whatever. I had to get Ms. Bright's cell phone number the other day. I changed phones. I don't have everybody's phone numbers. Just send them to me, will you?
You're right, Madam Chair. We're right. Let's move.
Please do that.
Move on.
All right, now, I need a motion to go into executive session for personnel matters, elections and resignations, discussion of employment of certified and classified staff for the fiscal year 2015-2016, and student matters, high school petitions, and contractual matters. Would someone please make a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
All right. Is there a second? All in favor, raise your right hand. Raise them up. Did everybody vote? Okay, it's unanimous. We're going into executive session.
I make a motion, we return to open session.
Second?
I second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion's carried unanimously. No decision was made, no action was taken. Dr. Cobb.
Madam Chair, school board members, the administration recommends approval of 3 resignations and 1 election.
Would someone please make a motion to?
Madam Chairman, I move we approve 3 recommendations and 1 resignation submitted by the administration.
Second?
I second.
Without discussion, all in favor? Mr. Goff?
I'm agreeing.
Oh, you're right. All right. The motion's carried unanimously. All right. And Ms. Battle, there you are.
Tonight we ask for approval of 3 successful petitions for high school diploma.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
All right. Second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. And the motion's carried unanimously. Mr. Coachman is not here. Mr. Driggers, could you fill in?
Madam Chairman, before we do that, I would just like to share that very sweetly, both our superintendent and our chairman have agreed to try one more time to see if this can work for them in doing the agenda. And Mr. Goff, if that's all right with you, why don't we support that effort this first of the next 3 months and see how that goes with everybody submitting.
I'm for whatever is going to move our district forward.
And get the meetings done quicker.
So if we can do that by agreement and not worry about the motion, then let's do that. Can we do that? Or should I make a motion?
Sounds great to me.
All right, let's do that. Yeah.
I'm all for making a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
All right. There you go. All right, is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?